Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. In this video, we're going to explore a new trading tool in the Savannah network that has recently come out. So not many people know about it yet. But actually with this tool, you can make a really good profit on a regular basis. So let's break everything down step by step. I'll try to keep it straightforward as always. Watch the video until the end and enjoy. So let's figure it out step by step. The service is called Fossil Terminal. Let's start the bot right away. To do this, we click Start, and here we immediately get a short instruction, a brief informational summary, and we can see that a wallet has already been created. Here's its address. And right now the balance is 0 Salan. You can also export the private key right away. I recommend doing this right away and writing down the key in a safe place so that in case anything happens, you can restore your wallet through any other service. I want to point out right away that the main advantage of this service is its super fast chart rendering, as well as quick transactions. Of course, it's still a bit rough around the edges in certain aspects, but nonetheless, with this tool, you can already make a good profit, and we'll see that step by step. And this service will be especially nice for beginners, as it has a pretty straightforward functionality overall. All these advantages allow us to scalp, meaning we can make quick trades, specifically in the Solana network, trading certain situations that we'll talk about now. And this service will be especially nice for beginners, as it has a pretty straightforward functionality overall. All these advantages allow us to scalp, meaning we can make quick trades, specifically in the Solana network, trading certain situations that we're going to talk about now. First, you'll need to top up your balance for trading. To do this, just copy the wallet address and transfer Solana to it, for example, from a centralized exchange or from any other wallet. I don't think there should be any problems here. Right now, I'm actually going to do that, top up the balance. So, I've topped up the balance with 5 Salan. And now let's open the app itself and go through the basic settings to understand the functionality. Here we see a short greeting and we can click on Explore Token. And accordingly, the main menu opens up where we can see the tokens that are being traded. This service supports not only tokens with Radium liquidity pools, but also those based on Pump Fun, which definitely provides a pretty wide range for trading. There are filters here, so we can see that Radium, V4, and Pump Fun are currently available for trading. Let's open any of them now and set up the trading settings. Take a look at how the chart is set up. It's somewhat reminiscent of binary auctions. However, this setup works really fast, meaning all the dips and pumps are drawn out very quickly, which gives us a significant advantage. As we can see, this token isn't being traded very actively, but that's okay. Let's just set up the settings and then get right into trading. So first of all, I recommend setting up it. When we activate it, our transactions will be protected from MEV bots, meaning we won't be shaved by MEV bots. This is actually a very important point, and I recommend using it. Yes, of course, transactions might go a bit slower, but on the plus side, you won't have those unpleasant situations where a bot pushes you up too high, for example, when you're buying. Next, we set the priority gas here. Again, you need to test it depending on how quickly you want to buy and how much you're investing. If you're going in with small amounts like 0.05 Salan, there's really no point in setting the gas too high, like 0.01. So basically, you can start with regular gas. It's better not to set an even amount to have an advantage over other traders. Well, if you increase it by just a few cents, your transaction is more likely to go through faster than someone who set an even amount. Well, and basically, you can decide on the amount yourself. Of course, if you're just starting to use this tool, I recommend starting with small amounts to get used to the functionality. And only when you're confident in your trading, when you get used to the service, then you can gradually start increasing your entry amount. But let me just set 1 Salan, and I'll leave the priority gas like this. Slippage is actually a very important point. If you want to scalp, it's better to set a small slippage, around 5%, so that in case anything happens, you won't get pushed up too high. And here we set the selling settings. So far, limit orders haven't been implemented, but as far as I know, the team plans to roll out limit orders for buying and selling in the near future. But for now, we're just choosing the percentage of the sale, meaning how much of the position we want to sell at the moment. Let's make it 100%. So that's it, basically. There's nothing more complicated to do here. There's also this little gear icon. Yeah, you can hide the chart like this, but overall, we'll need the chart. It's essential. And after you've set up the service, it's important to take care of your strategy. As I mentioned before, this service works very quickly, it draws candles very fast, and buying and selling happen rapidly, which gives us a big advantage for scalping, right? That is, for quick trades. Especially considering the current situation in the Solana network, People lately don't really like to hold their positions for long, and trading has become more active in Solana. And the main strategy for scalping is trading from sharp drops, meaning when the chart is rising sharply, there are a lot of people who bought at the bottom and want to lock in their positions. Often people sell off thoughtlessly and create sharp drops, which gives us a good entry point. And if a token has good liquidity, then usually these drops get bought back up very quickly, and by buying at the very bottom, we can quickly make 20, 30, 50%, or sometimes even more in just a few seconds. So the key to success in this kind of strategy is to smartly find a token that will give us those sharp drops and that will get bought back up. To find such tokens, I use the Photon platform, by the way. Photon also draws charts quite quickly. And now let me explain the principle of how to find those tokens that are suitable for our scalping. Look, we're going into new pairs and here we see the filters. Note that the Solana network is selected. Photon supports many different networks. And in the filters we set the liquidity. I usually set the liquidity to up to $50,000. Higher token liquidity means less volatility and more stable prices. We need tokens with significant price changes to catch sharp drops and trade quickly. Set liquidity to no more than $50,000. Trading volume is crucial to filter inactive tokens and see those with good volume. Set trading volume at least equal to liquidity. Leave everything as is and choose tokens of interest. Also, trading volume is a very important parameter. It helps us filter out inactive tokens and only see tokens with good trading volume. This is also a crucial point, and I recommend setting the trading volume to be at least 1-to-1 with the token's liquidity. Here, we can pretty much leave everything as it is, and then we choose which tokens we're interested in. In principle, you can remove the Orc and Meteor here, leave the Pomphan and Radium, and click Apply. Next, we can filter tokens by their creation time by clicking here. We get older pairs and newer pairs, but of course we're more interested in looking at fresh tokens that have been created recently to catch that first wave of growth and trade the first correction. For example, let's open the Fin token. It seems to look pretty good in terms of volume. Also, keep in mind that I always set the time frame to almost a second to see micro price changes. And I don't really like this chart. These sharp candles are probably due to team sales, and most likely the token will soon drop. Plus, there have already been many such corrections. Yes, it would have been one thing if we had traded them at the beginning, but now it's clear that there's a trend, and it's more likely heading towards a drop. Plus, there have already been many such corrections. Yeah, it would have been one thing if we had traded them at the beginning, but now it's clear that there's a trend, and it's more likely heading towards a drop. That's why I close such charts right away. Let's take a look at AirDog as well. It's also important to check how actively the buying and selling are happening, meaning how active the token is. Basically, Red Dog has some activity, but it's not exactly liquid. It's better to look for another token that will be more active on the 1 second time frame. And another important point, if you're a beginner and don't quite understand how to analyze tokens, first of all, check out the video on my channel about how to pick tokens so you don't fall for scams. And I simply recommend using Rigbot to check if the token is frozen. There are tokens that you can buy but won't be able to sell. It's easy to check. Let's copy the contract. Let's open Rigbot and check our contract through this service. We just paste it here and it gives us all the statistics. Here we can see in general that the token is not a scam. In principle, it can be bought and sold, so this token, for example, can be traded. But again, I have to say I don't really like it in terms of volume, and I think it's worth looking for a more interesting token. Look, I've just opened a project and we can see that it had a sharp drop, but it's not recovering at all. So that shouldn't be the case. Look for charts where sharp drops are quickly bought back up. With tokens that behave this passively, it's more of a game of roulette than a trading strategy. So it's really important to find the right chart, which we're going to try to do right now. And look, there's another feature when trading these kinds of stories. The more sharp drops a token has had, general corrections, the weaker the recoveries become each time if there's no influx of new audience. That's why, again, I say it's better to trade fresh tokens that have volume, liquidity, and interest. Of course, it is often not possible to find them right away, but as a rule, there are a lot of tokens coming out in the Solana network, and this is not a problem. Right now, while we wait for the tokens that will be suitable for trading, let me show you what a blatant scam looks like on Solana, which you should absolutely not buy. When you check through Rigbot, you see the function called conFreeze, which indicates freezing. So, if you see a function like that, under no circumstances should you buy those tokens. There's also a minting function. We see that there's a red flashing light, right? That's a warning that the token has a minting function, meaning the developer can mint any number of tokens, and of course can sell them into the order book at any moment. And just look at how these kinds of stories end with a huge candle down. So under no circumstances should you buy such tokens. Look, there's another important point. Before you start buying back any drops, it's important to see how the token behaves. So how actively the drops are being bought back and how actively it's being traded overall. It's important to have an active chart, like this one. But I don't really like it because it hasn't grown much yet. So we probably won't see any strong drops of 20-30% here right now. Considering that there have already been several serious drops at the start, those who wanted to unload their bags have already done so. And now, to see a significant drop, we need to wait for at least some more growth to buy back. Next serious drop. I usually always set the chart based on market cap, so if the cap is currently 100,000 and a drop happens to 80,000, that's a 20% drop. And these kinds of drops on high volume liquid charts are bought back really well, and at the very least, you should wait for serious drops, not buy back every 5% drop, but wait for more significant ones. I'll also share a few more important recommendations right away. If you've been staring at the charts for a long time, like 5-6 hours or more, your eyes get tired, you start to fatigue, and your speed naturally slows down. So, if you feel tired and your eyes are getting blurry, it's better to step away from the charts and not trade. You need to approach this kind of trading with a clear mind so that you can be at your maximum focus and be aware of your actions. Of course, the strategy is also important, meaning you shouldn't just jump in, like, oh, I found a token with high volume, I waited for the first drop, and I went all in. No, absolutely not. Enter positions in small parts to average down if the asset drops further. Choose assets wisely to ensure they bounce back, allowing you to break even or profit. Allocate a minimum deposit you can afford to lose to stay calm and add funds if needed. Gain experience and learn from mistakes to trade profitably. I allocate a significant percentage of my deposit for this trading. So, for this kind of trading, it's best to allocate a minimum deposit that you wouldn't mind losing at all. This way, first of all, you'll stay calm, and secondly, in case of losses, especially when you're just starting out, you can easily add more funds if needed. And once you've gained some experience and made your first mistakes, you'll be able to start trading profitably. For example, I allocate a pretty significant percentage of my deposit for this kind of trading. For example, now we will try to make some profit with 5 Solanas, and overall these 5 Solanas will not hit my pocket at all, even if I lose them. That is, the amount for trading should be such that you are not emotionally affected in any way. Accordingly, so that you do not worry and your hands do not shake. It's quite a risky story, and it won't be suitable for everyone. Of course, you need a certain level of experience and understanding of the charts. That is, for beginners, of course, it may not be easy, but this strategy is perfect for those who already have experience and can recognize charts, already has a feel for how tokens generally move. But still, even if you're a pro, I wouldn't recommend going all in on one token or using your entire trading amount to buy the dip. It's better to split it into several parts, at least 5 to 10 parts, so that in case something goes wrong, you can average down your position if the price goes even lower. I'll now demonstrate my trading, but we need to wait for the right token. It's better to split it into several parts, at least out of 10 parts, so that in case something goes wrong, you can average down your position if the price goes even lower. I'm going to show you my trading right now, but we need to wait for the right token. Let's take a closer look at this point. Let me show you how the platform works for now. To trade a specific token, we copy the contract, go to the bot, search for the token, and open it. Alright, we already have our settings here. What do I usually do? I'm opening the chart for the bean, and I open the chart on Photon so I can get an overall picture of the token to see what the current price levels are, and then I focus on scalping directly on Photon. This is roughly how everything looks for me. Buy dips at 20 to 30% drops. Set a line for a 20% drop to mark the buying zone. Use the bean chart to measure and be ready for price drops. You can immediately mark it for yourself or set a green line on Photon. For example, if a token is trading and you want to catch a 20% dip, you just set a line for yourself, mark the buying zone, and move it along as needed. Of course, it's not the most convenient method, so you can just open the bean chart and measure the screen like this. So if the price drops into that range or a specific range by a certain percentage. For example, right now we see the price at 0.1, so a 20% drop would be 0.08. But again, it depends on the chart. Basically, we can see that this token is quite active. And look, when there's a quick rise, there are also quick sell-offs that happen. You can sometimes catch them really well if there's a serious drop. Let's try trading now and see what comes of it. Actually, I'm looking at this token right now, and I don't really like it. In the meantime, I'm searching for other tokens that might be interesting for flipping. And now I've opened the token, and just look at how suspicious its chart looks. You can see from the chart that something's off with this token, and here Fato is also telling us that in the warning section there's a freeze function, meaning a freezing function, and we definitely shouldn't get involved with such tokens. I just made a purchase, and notice that I simply clicked buy, and now it shows on the chart at what level my purchase was made. Again, I'm watching how the chart reacts to the drop, meaning they aren't buying it back sharply, but there's some kind of reaction, and we might be able to make a little profit right now. I simply click sell 100%, and my sale is just successfully executed. I earn approximately 0.36 Salant after all the necessary fees, even though the token went up. But of course, you can't really guess how high it will turn around, so you need to look at how the chart behaves overall, or set clear values for yourself on when to average down during a drop by what percentage, and when to take profits during a rise by what percentage. This is more about strategy. As you can see, I waited for a more significant drop because the token showed decent growth, and now we're seeing a correction. Usually corrections are healthy at 50%, 70% and lower. Here there was a 50% drop. You can gradually buy back a certain percentage of the drop, especially if you look at the chart globally. But sometimes there are really sharp drops with big candles, and trading those kinds of drops is definitely the best. You could say that you earn guaranteed profit in just a few seconds. So let's keep trading. I just opened and closed the trade. Here there was a sharp drop. As you can see, with two big red candles like this, it was perfect to buy back during the drop. But I got a bit distracted and ended up buying just a couple of seconds later, and I ended up buying at the top. I had to close this trade, you could say, without a loss, because the entry point wasn't that great anymore. I'll try to record the entire trading process without interruptions for you. I might speed up some parts without comments so you can see that everything is fair, and not just some edited snippets. In principle, the token is currently trading quite well, and we see that it has already formed a certain correction and is a little stuck in a flat. I'm still waiting for a new asset. I hope we'll have some fresh token with better volumes, because here we can already see how the volumes will die down a little. And if we're going to trade, it's again about waiting for some serious drop like that. I also want to point out, guys, that in this kind of trading, it's really important to have a good, fast internet connection, because a 1 second delay can fundamentally affect your trade, often in a negative way. Oh, we see a sharp drop right now that we're trying to buy back. I didn't manage to buy it the first time, but I ended up buying it at a higher price. Again, it might be that my internet isn't very good right now, so that's a key point. Right now, I just had a random double buy, which can definitely have a critical impact on the upcoming trade. And we can see the chart going down, so it's important to always leave some amount for averaging down so you can correct, let's say, your mistake that was made. In this case, I don't like how things are unfolding with this token, so if it goes down even further, I've already averaged down, and if it drops more, I'll just close the position and take a certain loss from my entry point. But this will not be critical, since again we enter in parts, and with averaging this strategy allows us to correct our mistakes. But let's watch now. Most likely the chart should show some kind of reversal, because the spill has been quite significant. You can close in parts, yes, again, to avoid crashing the chart too much and to secure your position. Right now I've closed part of my position, and I'll be closing the second part as soon as the chart goes up a bit more, so I can exit, let's say, without a loss. Well, in this case, I don't like this flat trend that's forming. Overall, it was a good bounce, and I think it's better to close the position here and lock in a minimal loss rather than risk a larger part of my position, and then catch some new drop that will be sharper after the current bounce. I've completely closed my position now. Again, if the token's liquidity is low, like here with 30,000, we can significantly influence the price if we enter with a large position. So again, you can enter in parts as well as exit in parts to avoid creating strong drops and to close your position more favorably. And we can see that there's another serious drop happening right now. To be honest, I'm not really liking this chart anymore. I think it's better to look for a new token that's fresher and has even more liquidity. I also want to point out that the market is more active during certain hours and less active during others. Generally, there is more liquidity in the evening if we're talking about Moscow time. During the American session, more tokens are released almost every minute. You can see new tokens coming out. So, if you really want to work closely with something like this, it's better to choose a specific time when there's more liquidity in the market. As I already said, this is more of an evening time. Right now I don't see any new tokens, but let's just wait a bit and find a suitable token that meets all our criteria in terms of liquidity, in terms of volume, in general, so that we can trade a few good situations without unnecessary risks. Because it's better to wait than to jump into just anything, anywhere. Usually chaotic trading based on luck doesn't lead to anything good. Also, note that there are additional filters here that allow you to filter out tokens with freezes, that allow, for example, to filter out tokens without burned liquidity among the top 10 holders and so on. But I usually don't set them because I have a good eye and understanding of tokens, but you can also use these functions for yourself. For example, look, I'll also logically explain why this method makes sense, why it works. Because if the project is good, meaning the developers are not being straightforward on camera, they do marketing, attract a new audience, and let's say the token keeps growing. The higher it is, the fewer people there are wanting to buy it. Look at that nice pump. There's probably going to be a serious unload now. So, the higher the chart goes, the fewer people there are wanting to buy at that price. And accordingly, the lower the chart goes, the more people are watching the chart, right? They have FOMO and they don't want to buy at the highs. They want to wait for a correction and buy. And accordingly, they wait for the entry point. And when a sharp correction happens, they pick up that drop. And basically, our task is to be the first to buy during a decent drop and then lock in the profit when the others buy in. So, it's all about working quickly and understanding the charts. So, it's really important not to rush, to wait for some serious drops, especially when you see that the chart is, let's say, on the rise. Drops are definitely going to happen because there are people who got in early, they have big gains, and they just mindlessly cash out their entire position, creating that sharp drop. And those who are waiting to buy at a lower price, they jump into the position and create a new wave of growth. There are situations when someone makes a serious entry with a large volume, creating a pump, and of course those who got in lower can unload really well right away. Those big green candles are actually a good sign for the chart overall. Why? Because influencers often buy in this way. For example, the team communicates with the callers. They want to take on marketing and often gather information before making a call to the project's marketing. They usually buy in themselves for good amounts and create those sharp pumps. So, whether it's on the Ethereum network, Solana, or other networks, when you closely watch a project, you can see a picture like this, where a decent volume comes in. And that's like an additional signal that there will likely be some further growth. Here, basically the token is still Joker, right? It's the same as PP. Not bad. It's being traded out, they lifted it up from the correction, and now I think we can expect another sharp drop, after which it can be traded again. As for the new situations, I haven't seen anything interesting so far. 2 new tokens have appeared. This is honestly just garbage. You can even see it here, right? Minus 100% right away. And there's no liquidity in it. So with stories like that, you can just skip them and not even look. I also want to point out that this service Fasol doesn't draw the candles of the MEF bots. So here we see on the photon that there was a big purchase and a sharp sell-off. The MEF bot worked this out and pushed someone up very high. That's why I said it's important to either set a very small slippage so the MEF bot doesn't throw you around, or to set up some protection. By protection, I mean this JITA function in this case, so the MEF bot doesn't throw you up. So, in this case, the advantage of Fossily is that it draws the chart cleanly, without any unnecessary price spikes. Right now, we see that the token has crashed literally with one red candle. You could say it's hit the floor. But there's still liquidity of 7,000, and often you can catch such situations well. However, this does look more like a scam. Still, I bought it at my own risk. Even if it goes lower now, it's likely the team has sold, and there's not much left to sell. Because everything is in the red, and maybe we can flip it from this low. But let's take a look now. In any case, there is already a risk here. The risk to reward ratio, it is quite interesting. If a buyback doesn't start now, we'll just sell at a small loss. Well, there's no buyback, so let's sell for a small profit, because it's likely the team has just buried this token. I managed to earn a little bit, but of course you should never buy into these kinds of stories. You really need to understand what's happening with the token and be able to navigate the situation in real time. Let's find the next project. The team sold their entire token supply, pushing it to a cap, but it could have been flipped, which we did. We're at break even after trades, waiting for a better token as this project hasn't had big drops, except one, with few quick flip chances. This shows the need for careful project selection, checking distribution to avoid large holders. I rarely see this, but to avoid risks, especially for beginners, be selective with projects. In fact, this situation also demonstrates the fact that we need to be more careful when choosing projects. Look at the distribution so that there are no large holders, because such a situation could happen. Actually, I rarely come across situations like this, but still, to avoid unnecessary risks, especially if you're just starting out, you need to be more selective when approaching projects. So friends, I took a little break and was waiting for interesting tokens to show up, good ones with decent volume that are suitable for scalping. And now I've found a suitable token, let's try to trade it. In this case, the token has quite high liquidity, as we can see up to $140,000, but at the same time, there are often large purchases happening here, so you can scalp it pretty well, give it a try. There were sharp drops and there were also sharp buybacks. So basically even with this kind of liquidity, you can trade some assets pretty well. But of course it's better to go for lighter ones so that the chart is more volatile. I just made another trade with double averaging since the token dipped quite a bit. I managed to take some profit from this trade. As you can see, after a strong rise, there's usually a significant pullback, and it's exactly these pullbacks that you can catch pretty well. I made another trade. The asset dropped quite sharply, and again, yeah, there was a drop just now, but I didn't manage to catch it while I was explaining. In general, such sharp drops tend to get bought back pretty quickly. This is a good entry point right now if I can catch it. Yeah, I guess I didn't have enough slippage, but well, the purchase went through after all, but at a higher price. Look, you can also play around with the gas price. Make transactions go through faster. We need to buy this now. We can increase the gas. Let's go ahead and do that now. I couldn't catch that drop just now. Unfortunately, the drops were very juicy. But let's see, they might drop it again. You can try increasing the slippage if the transactions aren't going through, maybe because of too much volatility. It's exactly what slippage helps with. And unfortunately, this often lets you down a lot. I just tried increasing the slippage in case of such sharp drops. Right now, the asset has been significantly dropped by a few large transactions. Theoretically, there should be a buyback, so I averaged down again. I actually really like this trend. All of a sudden, they start to wipe out the chart with huge sell-offs. This suggests that, most likely, a big player is already leading the game, so to speak, towards the end. So, when you see such a situation, you need to try to get out of your positions as quickly as possible. What we're going to try to do now, and of course with each major drop like that, buying power decreases, because the first drop gets bought up, the second drop gets bought up, the third drop gets bought up. Here, on the fourth impulse, it's already weaker, so with each impulse it's getting harder for the chart to go up. And of course this situation is not good. We had a sharp sales volume, wiping out the chart. In such cases, exit quickly. You can average down if you have funds. If the chart drops further, it could be critical. Therefore, in such situations, again, you want to get out of this situation as soon as possible, because the schedule is simply being rolled out. You can certainly average down in such situations if you have the funds to do so, but as you can see, we've already averaged down several times, and if the chart goes even lower, you could put yourself in a critical situation. So it's better to get out of the trade with minimal losses while it's still possible. But this again relates to strategies.
For example, you can average down every 20% drop or every 30%. Here, everyone needs to determine their own strategy, considering what will happen if the price goes in the opposite direction, what they want. So, I've decided to completely close my position, since I had a pretty bad entry point on this corrective move. And now I'll see if I can catch another big drop. Now I'm going to try to connect the correction with a few purchases. The idea is to take this movement now. Yeah, as you can see, I traded the movement and made a small profit. You could say I returned to my original balance, but let's say I paid for my mistakes, so I had to work my way back. It's also important not to rush with the asset to see how it behaves, corrections it's drawing. And we can see that this asset is making quite deep drops. You can even measure it. Overall, a drop of 30%. Here, it's about the same kind of drop, that is. These impulses are worth trading when there's a 30% drop, that is. You can even mark for yourself the impulse, the drop, then the correction to the drop. And again, you can roughly predict the next point where you can buy back at a good price. So, I'm going to wait for it to correct a bit more, and most likely I'll set aside a new drop. I'm also keeping an eye on some assets, but so far I don't see anything good. Let's keep an eye on this token too. Maybe we can work with it as well. Here we can see a good situation, where there was a sharp drop, but unfortunately I hadn't opened my trading monitor yet, so I couldn't take advantage of that movement. In the meantime, Grimace has been bought back quite well, and we will likely see a new little drop soon that we can trade. As you can see, the token isn't being rolled back, meaning there's a struggle between buyers and sellers. The token is liquid, and that's definitely a good thing. I just caught another movement, but as we can see, jumped out a bit too early. However, I managed to grab the correction. Right now, I'm waiting for the next situation and will trade it. I'm currently watching the bird token and pay attention to how it's performing. So, a sharp drop, buyback, sharp drop, buyback. Most likely we'll see a similar sharp drop now that we can buy back. So let's give it a try. But to be honest, I don't really like this token because it has very low liquidity. So, if you're going to get into situations like this, it should be right down to the penny. They just gave another drop like that. Let's see if they'll buy it back. I basically bought, you could say, at the very bottom, but still, someone just sold lower and the TVX isn't looking that great anymore. But if anything happens, I'm ready to average down again.
I managed to make a profit, and it was really good, almost 0.5 Solana from just one trade. As you can see, I was able to read the chart and understand how it moves. And because of that sharp buyback during the latest drop, I made a good profit of almost 0.5 Solana. So it's important not to rush, to be very selective when picking tokens, because situations like this can bring in really good profits in just a matter of seconds. In the meantime, we see that the Grimace has risen again to a market cap of almost $1 million, and it's likely that we'll see a correction on this movement, at least 20-30%. You just need to wait until it feels out its support and starts to correct. After that, you can also open a short trade. So let's try to do this now. We can see that a correction has started. Now we just have to wait for the entry point. Of course I could have grabbed it, but I think they should give us a lower price. And here's the correction we were waiting for. Well, I managed to buy in quite well. Let's not be greedy. Stick to the strategy. I also entered with 1 Solana. If it goes lower, average down. If it gains 10%, I'll close. Sharp pump, missed the top, took profit. Well, if it gives at least a 10% gain, I think I'll close the position. Well, there was a sharp pump and I didn't manage to sell at the very top, but still, I took a nice profit. And now, I managed to make a net profit of 0.7 Solana, which at the current Solana rate is about $100. So I made about $100 in just a little over an hour of trading. As you can see, the key is to choose the right chart, understand how it moves, and you can really capitalize on those sharp drops and corrections through this terminal. Of course, it's still a bit rough around the edges, and you need to get the hang of it in a certain way because it's important to set the parameters correctly and really feel them. If you feel that, for example, with a certain slippage and gas it's not working, you can try increasing the slippage if the token is too volatile. Or, for example, try increasing the gas for the transaction. I also want to see limit orders for buying and selling soon, so I don't have to do it manually, since it still takes a second. This is often very important in this kind of scalping, and so that everything closes and buys automatically and so on. The developers promise to refine everything in the near future, and this tool is being improved based on audience feedback. So keep that in mind. Well, that's all for now. I hope the video was helpful for you. Again, it's worth noting that this type of trading isn't for everyone, and I especially wouldn't recommend it for beginners without any experience. If you're diving into this trading, ensure you understand charts and tools. Use this terminal to gain an edge and profit daily with scalping. Don't keep large amounts on your deposit. Bots can fail. I only keep my trading deposit on such services. If you already have a comprehensive understanding of how charts behave and how to use basic tools, then you can definitely use this terminal as a big advantage over other traders, and you can definitely make good money with scalping every day. Of course, I will leave a link to this service under the video so you can safely use it. But again, the recommendation is not to keep large amounts on a trading deposit, since no one knows what can happen to this or that bot. This applies to bots in principle. Even centralized exchanges are hacked, so I only keep a trading deposit on such services. And check out my Telegram channel, where I share even more useful content about trading in DeFi. Well then, we're not saying goodbye. See you soon.